Okay, we are going to get started here. Thank you all for being with us today for the webinar AI, Myths, Truths, and Straight Up Lies. My name is Martin Morgan. I'm the general manager for Repair Shop Websites. And again, I thank you all for being here today to talk about AI, which is a topic you are probably seeing everywhere. And what I've been thinking about recently takes me back to a couple of presentations that I heard from Gary Vaynerchuk. So some of you may know of Gary Vaynerchuk, also known as Gary V. He's on LinkedIn a lot and some other areas. Ultimately created his own marketing agency, but I'll never forget the presentation that he gave to us really. And what he had said is that marketers ruin everything. So marketing ruins everything. And the reason that they ruin everything is because they overhype, they talk things up to the extent that something could never possibly live up to the hype in the effort really just to sell something. And that is a large part of what's happening a lot with AI currently. And if you're like me, you probably experience the same sort of thing, and that includes scare tactics. They'll tell you that you are falling behind, and they'll use big words and acronyms to make you feel dumb. Unfortunately, that's a common thing that some of these marketing agencies will use in order to try to get you to do something, to get on board with AI, to utilize it for whatever the product they have that they're trying to sell you. It probably comes forth in things like this. AI is the future. Probably heard that. It feels like we'll get to the end of this one, but feels like this has escalated. AI was the future, AI is the future. Then it's if you aren't using fill in the blank, you're falling behind whatever the latest AI product or AI type thing that somebody's trying to peddle to you. SEO is dead. It's AEO. No, it's GEO. Now it's EIEIO. So the EIEIO is just joking around. But to the point of the acronyms, always utilizing acronyms or things that people don't understand to try to sell what AI is doing. And we'll address this one specifically in one of the myths that we're coming up on. And then, AI is now. So it feels like this whole thing happened within the course of 3 to 6 months, where it wasn't that long ago people saying AI is the future, and now AI is now. The AI I just read an email from somebody promoting something that said the AI revolution isn't coming, it's already here. And oftentimes, what happens is that this gets us on edge. It has us feeling nervous. What is going on? I don't understand this. How does this all work? What do I need to pay attention to? What do I not need to pay attention to? And it gets really confusing. And if you're like me, sometimes it causes you some anxiety, some worry, concern. So what we're going to do today, just ask everybody, take a deep breath. We're going to go through some of the concepts, some of these things, some of these myths that are getting thrown out there. And I've got 5 myths specifically to talk about. I've got some recommendations as far as how AI can help you. And then at the end, I'm happy to take any questions that you all may have, whether those be specific or whether they be broad. You can utilize the webinar chat. You can use the Q&A if you want to post questions. You can put those in there at any time, and we'll talk about it toward the end. Because really, my goal today is just to help you all walk away from this webinar with some useful information so you can tell the difference between the things that might be helpful to you and then a place where somebody is just trying to get your money. Because those things do happen. There's a lot of people who take advantage of times like these to try to get business based on the business people not understanding how things work. And so they utilize those things. And when my goal is to try to help you so that doesn't happen to you. Key points, this is me. I'm not an expert. So how many times have you listened to a webinar or on board something or somebody speak and they say, I'm not an expert? Probably not very many. But the key thing here is nobody is really an expert on this topic. And if somebody says that they are an expert, they know exactly what's going to happen, then you should probably run the other way because nobody really knows this stuff. It's too new. It's rapid change. We just were at a digital summit conference here in Raleigh, North Carolina, just a few weeks ago, and it's always a great conference. And what was excellent is there were a bunch of speakers talking about AI development, marketing, different things that are happening. And the best ones always said, here's what we know right now, here's what our recommendations are. But nobody knows the path that this is going to take. And in 6 months, some of the things that we're talking about today will already be outdated or they'll already be gone because that's the way that this is changing. And I think one of the key points that I hope you all take away from this is as auto repair shop owners, you do not need to be on the bleeding edge of all this technology. So if somebody's telling you you need to do this right now or you're going to be left behind, based on the market that you compete in, that is just not true. That is not true. And again, this everything we talk about today is going to be specific to things like marketing, right? Marketing related stuff. So, keep that in mind as well. I definitely can't speak to the inside shop operations type technology, shop management system type developments. But when it comes to marketing, there is nothing happening in AI today that if you miss out on, you're gonna, be in big trouble from a business standpoint. But there are things you could leverage, and it is important to understand what things are happening and what to look out for. So that's where we'll spend a lot of time talking today. All right, first myth. Everybody is using AI for search. If you've looked at anything, heard anything recently when it comes to how are people finding your business on the web, you've probably seen lots of stuff that tells you everybody's using AI for search. If they're searching for anything, they're using AI. And I can tell you with a strong level of confidence that that is just not true. This is a survey that was done earlier in the year. Now, I will say it is earlier in the year, but of 1,000 consumers, and this has certainly changed because things have developed. However, I think this is important to note. When you look at the key point here, it says which platform do consumers consider their default for local searches? So we're talking about searches for local service businesses, which is exactly what you all are, right? Auto repair shops, a local service business. And part of the problem is there's a big difference in search between informational search and local search. So if I'm looking for information, maybe that's what everybody does, right? Oh, I hurt my ankle. Is it broken? Is it sprained? What is this? And you might plug that in and or go to your favorite place and search for something, or maybe you're looking for information on a movie or a recommendation. Those are informational type searches. But local service searches are completely different searches and people look at them differently. Consumers look at it differently. But the problem is what marketing agencies do is they'll take stats and data from all searches or informational searches and then say everybody's going to their favorite AI to search. But they don't tell you the full story, which is people are using AI a lot more to find information. And even you see that in Google. But when it comes to local service businesses, that is not the truth. So from this survey, as we look at this, number one, Google at 45%, Google Maps at 15%. So now we've got 60% of people using Google, 8% using Safari, which is almost always also Google Chrome. So 68%, and then 4% using YouTube, which is also Google. So 72% of people, when they're talking about searching for local businesses, utilize some Google property to search there, right? So the AI revolution isn't hitting local services searches. It is there somewhat, and I would say this is from that I think 4 or 5 months ago, so it has changed. But also important to note, right? Even if we go below the YouTube, you see Apple Maps 4%, Bing, which is another search engine at 3%, TikTok, which kind of hard to believe, but I guess not surprising, 3%, Facebook 3%, Yelp 3%, before we get to ChatGPT, which is the most well-known AI at 2%. So at this point, only 2% of all consumers were utilizing an AI tool for local search, an AI specific tool, let's say. There's a lot more people utilizing social media to look for local services than there were AI tools. right? And then my favorite thing to point out, because I'm going to mention this too, at 1%, voice assist. So many of you may remember 10 years ago, voice assist was the future, right? It wasn't AI, it was voice assist. Everybody is going to be using voice assist for this. Um, so we've gotten past that, and now only 1% of people are using voice assist. So that's not to say that in 8 years that 1% of people will be using AI. My guess is it'll be a lot more than that. But right now, voice assist, which was the big thing 8 years ago, there's only 1% of people utilizing that. So I think one of the key things here is AI is impacting search, but it's not impacting searches for local businesses like auto repair shops all that much as of right now. The other thing to note is watch out for sources of data. Watch out for who is telling you what and where they're bringing in that information. Where is it coming from? Because that's a key piece here. But one of the key takeaways for today, AI is not significantly impacting searches for local service businesses to the extent that some of these marketing agencies are saying that it does. Second myth, you have to make major changes to your website to be found by AI. You all have probably gotten emails from several people telling you this exact thing. You have to make major changes to your website to be found by AI. And no, you shouldn't, right? And that's if whoever is managing your website has been doing the things they should do for you over the past 3 to 5 years. You shouldn't have to make major changes to your website. There are adjustments that can be made to help your website perform well when it comes to AI search, but still the vast majority of people are utilizing regular search to find you, to find auto repair shops. You don't want to make major changes that you would say would be just for AI that could hurt your other search. So you shouldn't have to make major changes at all. And this again really reminds me of the voice search hype, right? You got to do this for voice search 8 to 10 years ago. And ultimately, the keys to being found in voice search were the same things that were the keys to being found in traditional search, right? You explain what your services are. You help people understand where you're located. You include your hours. All of those things that are really important when we're talking about auto repair shops. That stuff is also important for AI. Now, this might be true for news or informational sites, right? If you're a media outlet, you're drawing people to your website so they can read news, information, all of those things, then yeah, you might need to change what you're doing. What they're focused on now are pillars content, really, where they're building up lots of information on specific topics and making it better interconnected. But that doesn't apply to auto repair shops. This also may be true for business to business software, because a lot of times when it comes to selling business to business software, you're trying to catch people that are in a situation where they have a problem, a challenge within their business that they need software to help them solve. So more often than not, people are looking for solutions. They're looking for in-depth information, right? And again, that's where like the pillars of content come into place. But for an auto repair shop, this doesn't apply for that either. So you should not have to make major changes to your website in order to be found by AI. That ties right into this one. Myth number 3, SEO is dead. Search engine optimization, which is one of the key things that should be built into your website, and people saying SEO is dead. This is probably the third or fourth time that SEO is dead, and it's still not dead. And the key piece here is what they're using other acronyms: AEO, GEO. That was in the intro a little bit. That's answer engine optimization and generative engine optimization. They're just modern SEO. They're just modern search engine optimization. Search engine optimization has changed over the years. like many other things, but these things are just the next iteration of SEO. And the key thing is here, and it ties into the last piece as well, is if the person who's doing your website has been following modern practices for the last 3 to 5 years, then your website should have already been adjusted in the ways that are going to help you best perform when it comes to AI. And part of that is because Google made a transition 3 to 5 years ago where they became a question answering machine. So I'm not going to get too deep into the technical details because I'll probably bore you all. Prior to that, Google spent a lot of time focused on, it was often focused on keywords. So SEO, a lot of it was keywords. Are you highlighting the specific keywords? Are you highlighting a certain number of times on a page so that it will be found? That sometimes worked, and it got to the point where it didn't work as much. And then Google made a significant transition to a question answering machine. And if you think about it that way, it should all serve us better as users of Google, which means the questions that we are answering, Google's looking for answers on your website to those questions, right? So if somebody's asking, hey, what's the best auto repair shop in Raleigh, North Carolina? Google's looking at your website to determine, should you be considered for that, right? So that's the important thing. All of these updates should have been made within the past 2 to 3 years. If you're one of our customers, if you're a customer at Repair Shop Websites, then we've been doing the stuff that's going to help you in AI for you for 3 to 4 years. And the great thing is you don't even necessarily recognize it because some of it's technical, it's on the back end that you don't see. And some of it is changes within the structure of your site that you also aren't likely to notice unless you're looking closely at it. But we don't go out and ask you, hey, would you like us to make adjustments so that your website can continue to search? We're just always doing it on the back end because that's one of our goals, is to make sure that our customers search well. So if you're not one of our customers, your provider should have been doing the things for you over the past 3 to 4 years, which would position you to continue to search well when AI is looking at your website. And part of that is AI is a very thorough researcher. So that's definitely one of the things to consider. AI is similar to humans in that it's looking for answers to questions. It's just going to research things a lot more deeply than a typical consumer might. And the other important piece to note is AI wants to find the same things humans do. And a lot of that gets built into credibility. Are you a credible business? Right? So AI is searching all over the web to determine if you're credible. What's one of the number one things that humans do to determine how credible you are? They look at reviews. Well, guess what? AI looks at reviews too. It doesn't just stop at Google reviews. It also will look at Yelp reviews and other areas of the internet to see if you have reviews. It's looking for credibility. It's looking for references to your business. So that might be links to your website from other websites, or it might just be a mention somewhere because it's logging that. It's also citations, again, not to get overly technical, which are other areas of the web where there are business listings. Those are important again because AI is utilizing those things to get credibility built for your business. When it comes to Google, Google looks at your Google business profile and it can see pretty much all the information it needs to see to know that you're credible. When it comes to these AI tools, they're not relying as much on Google because Google's a competition. So they're relying on other things. So that's why these listings across the web are even more important. They were super important 15 years ago. Then their importance leveled off, still a little bit. And now they've increased back into being important because of the way that AI is doing these things. And just remember too, it's all about credibility. If you've built a strong reputation across the web, then you will continue to do well as AI looks for auto repair shops. But SEO is not dead, and these other acronyms are just the modern SEO. Fourth myth, humans love using AI chatbots. Oh goodness. The places that I see talking about how this is going to be so beneficial to your business, and it is not true. Humans do not love AI chatbots because AI chatbots cause frustration. They usually can't answer more than surface questions. And the key thing here, and a very valuable thing that you can use instead, are text or messaging solutions. So if you're using somebody who says, hey, we can put this on your website and customers can get instant response, right? Consumers will like to have text or messaging solutions there. That works out real well, but they don't like just chatbots. There's never been a time where I've used a chatbot, an AI chatbot, where it's actually worked and answered my question. Never. It's never worked. Text and messaging solutions, if you have people engaged, involved, and able to respond, those things, they can be extremely helpful because you're starting a conversation and you can respond and understand somebody's questions yet. Now, am I saying AI chatbots will never be beneficial? No, definitely not. I can see how they will continue to evolve and be good. But right now, for the most part, they're not so good. And again, this is another one of those areas where I say, 6 months from now, we could be having a completely different conversation. So pay attention to that and how they work, but just know now that consumers don't love AI chatbots. Myth number 5, AI equals instant ROI. You've probably heard this in lots of places at lots of times, and that is also just not true. Even if you're utilizing AI in a way that it can be effective, in almost all instances, it needs to be trained. You need to help AI understand how to deal with certain circumstances. It's not often just a set it and forget it type of a thing. Prompts and instructions are really important. So you've got to be very specific, and you have to, if you're utilizing it and you're setting it up, or if somebody else is setting these things up for you, their setup and what they've done on the front end is incredibly important. And then it needs to be supervised. It can't just go off and just do its thing, and then you don't pay any attention to it ever again. You need to focus on and understand, okay, how is this working? Is this working the way that we would expect it to work? Is it doing what we would expect it to do? You need to make sure that it's acting the way that you would ultimately want it to act. And if you're going to have some role in helping train AI or helping it give the answers you would want it to give, you want to make sure that you know all of that before you sign on to anything. Because the last thing you want to do is have somebody promise you the moon for some sort of AI service. You buy into it expecting, oh, yeah, this is going to solve all our problems. And then you get it and you realize that you need to tell it exactly what to do. Right? So be aware. It needs to be trained. Prompts and instructions are really important. So you may be listening to this, watching all this, and say, man, he's really anti-AI. I am not anti-AI at all. I think there are things that AI can definitely do and can be helpful, and it can definitely be a valuable tool when used correctly. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you might be able to use it in other parts of your shop and operations in your shop, and it works seamlessly. But when it comes to marketing, what I want to be sure is that you all are aware of what AI is, what it can do, that you're aware of the hype, that you can look out for and be aware of people who come to you saying they're experts and telling you this is what you've got to do. This is how you've got to be able to use AI. So AI recommendations for writing, emails, promotions, potentially even some website copy. It can be a really good tool. I've got Copilot on the right here on the slide, which is part of Microsoft. Can be a really good tool, but it's a process. It's kind of like you're working with somebody else and you're working through what you want this to look like, right? So you've got to use your prompts, you've got to ask it for things, you've got to look at what it produces and then go back to it if it's not what you want it to be. The more specific you can be, the more likely you are going to get what you're looking for, but you have to be specific. So you want to be able to practice, work on it, and be specific. And then proofreading is really important. Don't ask it to write the best man speech for one of your best friend's weddings, get it printed out and not read it until you're standing up to give the speech. Right? You want to make sure that it fits what you're looking for, and you've got to proofread those things to make sure they're going to work. Another recommendation is to test it, right? Test the AI. Small investments. Um, there's no certain path. As I said, as the people that are going to be shoot you straight on this, they would say there's no certain path. Things can change in 6 months. You don't want to be locked into a contract that makes you committed to spending a bunch of money with some provider that, it may or may not work. Small investments. If you can test something, try it out, try it before you buy it, try it before you commit it all, sign up for a month, maybe a quarter at most, depending on what it is, just to make sure it's going to work the way that you think it's going to work and the way that people promise you it's going to work. Because sometimes this stuff will work in certain environments and then it's not going to work in your environment, but you're not going to know it until you try it. So you can't just take people's uh, word for it that, oh, this is going to be best. But it is something that if you want to try, that you want to figure out, you have to test it. Again, small investments, small commitments to see if it's going to work. And be ready to switch or change or test or do something different. You want to be flexible when it comes to it. And make sure you're absolutely clear what you are getting into. Have a good understanding of what the promises of the product or the service are, what your expectations could be. Ask specific questions. What does this look like in a month? How many inbound marketing leads can we expect to get in a month? Ask that sort of thing to make sure that you understand exactly what it is. When it comes to data analysis can be super valuable. So this again is Copilot through Excel. Really nice tool to analyze spreadsheets. If you're looking at spreadsheets or something like that, it can definitely do some data analysis with you, but it is one of those things where you have to ask the right questions. I've utilized it, asked for something, it gave me exactly what I was looking for, went to another spreadsheet, basically asked the same thing, and it didn't return the data I was looking for. So it makes you wonder, like, how is that even possible? Like, you would think if you asked it for something, it would always give you the proper answer. And that's just not the case. So you've got to work with it. You've got to test it. You've got to be able to commit time to that sort of thing. The same is true for emails. It can give you a quick synopsis of an email or a quick synopsis uh, of a document or something of that nature. Really good at summarizing information, as I was just mentioning, because you just go on there, you type in some stuff and ask it to do something. You're good at making recommendations. Evaluate these options for me and uh, tell me which option I should pick and why. It can be helpful in that. Again, I wouldn't let it make all the decisions for you, but it's like talking to a business partner or a coach or something like that. You can utilize it in that way. That's a beneficial way, certainly, to use it. So that's the end of what I have prepared. I try to keep it to a tight 30 minutes. If this is valuable to you all, please let us know. It's something we'll continue to do. We can update it fairly fairly quickly. As I mentioned, things are changing rapidly. I think, key points I would just mention again, and I hope that you take from it. Everybody is not using search to look for local auto repair shops. They're not using AI to search for auto repair shops. Not everybody is doing that. A group of people are, but the majority of people are still utilizing Google to look for auto repair shops, which means Google is still extremely important, right? SEO is not dead. Search engine optimization is not dead. Search engine optimization is still important because that's how people find auto repair shops. AI isn't something to be scared of, right? And you are not going to be left behind if you don't give somebody your money tomorrow to help them set up some sort of AI functionality for you. You're not. An auto repair shop should not be on the bleeding edge when it comes to marketing technology like this, because it is not where you're necessarily going to get the best return on your investment when it comes to attracting consumers. If you have a question, please put it in the Q&A or the webinar chat. Here's also my contact info. If you don't have a chance to stick on or ask a question now, you can always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. Really, my goal, and hope you all walk away with today, is some information that's going to help you make good decisions when it comes to your marketing related to AI, because one of the things that bothers me the most is marketing agencies out there that are selling business owners who've put their blood, sweat, and tears into their business on these things that are not truly going to help them. So I don't see any other questions in chat or Q&A. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you all for being here. Again, happy to answer any questions. It's got my contact information there at a later date. And hope you all take care and have an excellent rest of the day.